Formula One on 5 Live.
Good afternoon from a packed-out Silverstone, where Sprint Saturday has arrived at the British Grand Prix, and the home crowd has plenty to cheer about too, with Lewis Hamilton starting from pole after a stunning lap in sprint quali yesterday. But with Kimi Antonelli, Max Verstappen, a host of challengers all in the mix, nothing is guaranteed over this flat-out dash to the finish. It's 17 laps, no time to settle, and every point could prove crucial. And guiding you through it all up in the commentary box is myself, Harry Benjamin, alongside me the BBC F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, and the 1996 Formula One world champion Damon Hill. Damon, welcome to the box. How have you been enjoying your British Grand Prix weekend so far?
It's been amazing, Harry. I've been doing quite a lot of corporate stuff. I've been going from one hospitality unit to another and talking myself hoarse. I hope I've got a voice left. But anyway, the fans are absolutely loving this. And of course, the great story, the huge story is Lewis Hamilton. It wasn't just a blip. You know, Spain wasn't a blip. You know, he's coming back and he's put it on pole position in a spectacular way.
It really was a spectacular lap, I should say. But it even surprised himself yesterday. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, I think we all thought that Ferrari were going to struggle here, and this whole business of deploying your battery, charging your battery and all this stuff, and how you use it around the circuit, we thought the Mercedes were going to be the benchmark. Maybe Max and Red Bull have found something or not, but anyway, the fact is that Lewis and Ferrari know what they're doing. Now, they have come under attack from Toto at Mercedes, who's lobbed a bit of a grenade in there by suggesting that Ferrari are maybe coming up with far too many upgrades, and maybe that they shouldn't be throwing so much at it, considering that we have a cost cap and they're restricted in what they can do. But so rather suggesting that they were overextending themselves in a strange way, which has provoked a response from Fred Vasseur, who has made it clear and on no uncertain terms that he's not happy with the suggestion that they might be doing something untoward.
Yeah, Andrew, what do you make of this? Is this just Toto Wolff wanting to stir a bit of drama and politics?
There's definitely some tension between Mercedes and Ferrari on a bunch of different subjects. You've got this stuff with the cost cap, you've got things to do with the engine management. There have been complaints, you know. It goes right back to the beginning of the year with the start procedures. Just over and over again, politicking off track between Mercedes and Ferrari has been a big thing. And it was, you know, what was in the context of all of that was interesting yesterday after Hamilton turned up on Thursday saying, oh, we're going to be twice as far behind Mercedes as we were in Austria here, to see that there was absolutely no difference whatsoever in terms of deployment and engine power over the course of the lap in qualifying. And the only difference in terms of lap time between Hamilton and Antonelli was that the Mercedes lacked the front end grip in the first couple of slow corners. Nothing to do with the engine at all. So that's just all that's going to do is add extra spice to this.
Oh, we love a bit of spice though, Damon, don't we? And it could be quite an exciting 17 laps. We know that energy management has been talk of the town for this weekend, and the drivers rather dreading that. Carlos Sainz saying this could be entertaining for the wrong reasons, this sprint race, because we'll see a bit of that yo-yo style racing perhaps.
Yeah, I was going to bring a yo-yo with me, but I forgot to do
Damon.
it. But I can actually do yo-yos. But the point they're making is that this is not the sort of thing they want to experience as a racing driver. But the fact of the matter is, the teams were given the regulations. They've done the best job they can, and they have to work out how to compete against everyone else with the same issues. They've got a problem with the battery power running out, so they use up too much at the wrong moment, and suddenly all the work they've done in overtaking someone is lost because they sit there like a sitting duck, and a pass comes to the other guys that they've overtaken with more juice left. So it's for us, it's quite difficult to understand when this is happening. We sometimes have onboard views of the battery state of charge and stuff, and the rate it's emptying. But it is quite complicated to watch these races now and predict when somebody has got run out of battery and when they're being overtaken for that reason, rather than because they've been out-dragged or something.
Well, look, some expected over the course of the weekend, over 500,000 people in the grandstands and the general admission areas here at Silverstone, looking forward to some racing. And for the home crowd, there really is a huge amount of British talent to get on board with. We've got 4 Brits inside the top 10. Hamilton on pole. George Russell starts down in 5th. Lando Norris, the reigning world champion, behind. And the British rookie Arvid Lindblad inside the top 10. Damon, for British talent, this is a brilliant display so far.
Yeah, we've come out in force, haven't we? We've got a great contingent there, and I'm trying to remember what we might. It's 5 drivers, or is it 6 drivers if you count?
Well, yeah, it's 5. It's 5, 6 if you count the London-born Thai, Alex Albon.
So yeah, I'm trying to remember when I was racing. I think there may have been 6 of us at one point. But yeah, we're very well represented here with our sport. But I was watching the F3 race earlier today, and I was looking down the grid there. There's lots of names from all over the planet, and so we do need more. We got Freddie Slater on his way up, but you know we have to keep finding new talent. It's very competitive out there.
It certainly is. This a track where every driver is familiar with, a very much prevalent racetrack on calendars throughout support series as they head off on the formation lap now. Let's run you through how they line up for today's sprint. We'll have 1 car from the pit lane. It will be Alex Albon's Williams. Setup changes made overnight and a testing session for them this afternoon. Will start from the pit lane, so the 2 Aston Martins will be 20th and 21st. Alonso ahead of Stroll. Then we'll have Valtteri Bottas in 19th behind his teammate Sergio Perez. Esteban Ocon from 17th behind Ollie Bearman, the British driver at Haas, down in 16th. Williams up there in 15th with Carlos Sainz on the grid behind Alpine's Franco Colapinto. Nico Hulkenberg and his teammate at Audi, Gabriel Bortoleto, 12th and 13th, with Pierre Gasly starting in 10th. In 11th, Arvid Lindblad inside the top 10 behind his Racing Bulls teammate Liam Lawson. Then comes Isaac Hadjar. Oscar Piastri 7th behind teammate Norris. Inside the top 5 to George Russell in 5th. Charles Leclerc in 4th. A little disappointed not to be right up there with his teammate. Max Verstappen in 3rd. And your front row will see our championship leader Kimi Antonelli start in 2nd, alongside the man you can hear the cheers from the grandstand for, Lewis Hamilton, as he makes his way through Maggots and Beckett's. Will start on sprint pole, his 3rd career sprint pole, and really, Damon, in the best seat in the house to bag some crucial points. Less points available in a sprint, 8 for the win, down to 1 point for 8th place, but certainly he'll be wary of that Mercedes alongside him.
Yeah, he'll be wary of them, because Kimi's starts have been getting better, and the last run in Austria, I didn't think there was too much in it between all the guys in the front. They seem to be, well, they will have worked very hard on getting those starts right. I've noticed that the first 2 are on new tyres, but Verstappen, both of the Red Bulls, Hadjar as well, are on used or scrubbed medium tyres, probably thinking about tomorrow's race and needing to conserve tyres.
Yeah, indeed. Everybody, though, on the medium tyre, with the exception of those further back in the pack. Valtteri Bottas, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll electing to start on the soft tyre. They very much expecting this to be a long old slog for them at the back, and using it more as a practice session, and may be able to pick off anything that comes their way. But this will be 17 laps, no mandatory pit stops in a sprint race. It is a sprint to the finish. The top 8 will score points around this 3.6 mile, 5.8 kilometre track, 18 turns, 8 that go to the left and 10 that go to the right. And just to bring you up to speed before we start with how the Drivers' Championship is sitting, Antonelli 40 points clear at the top from George Russell. Lewis Hamilton 3rd, ahead of Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, Leclerc and Verstappen, the top 7. Mercedes lead the way in the constructors ahead of Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull and Alpine are the top 5, as the final car now peels round of Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin in green, making up the back of the pack. Albon from the pit lane. The green flag will fly at the back. The start-up sequence begins. It's a short run down to a right-hander at turn 1. On the front row, sees the Silver Arrow Mercedes of Antonelli. The Scarlet Ferrari of Hamilton is on pole. And the sprint is on here at Silverstone. And it's a good start from those in the mid-pack. Hamilton immediately, though, having to come across and defend from Antonelli, who goes side by side with him through turn 1. Hamilton holds on through the left hand as we head now down towards turn 3. Hamilton with a good start, clear and ahead of Antonelli. Good start, Damon, from the 7-time world champ.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Our commentary box, I can actually look out the window and see a start for real. I wasn't actually watching it on the screen, and it was a brilliant start. They got off the line pretty well together, and he had to defend, of course, at that moment like that. Kimi Antonelli has to think, I'm leading the world championship. I do not want to have any issues. Of course, also Lewis is in the fight for the championship too, but I think there was definitely messaging there to him that he's not going to take any prisoners, and off he goes. He's now already stretched out that leader as Kimi is under attack.
It's Lando Norris who's made a great start and breezes through on Antonelli up to second just as we get to the turning point at Copse. Lando Norris up from 6th with a brilliant start on the grid. Already into second, it's Hamilton, Norris and Antonelli, the top 3 as they make their way through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel now, swinging right, then left, then right again, through the left-hand flick, out of Chapel, down the hanger straight. Hamilton just starting to extend that advantage now as the Mercedes of Antonelli gets back through. Meanwhile, behind them, it's the other McLaren of Piastri fighting with the other Mercedes of George Russell. Russell trying to get through and now take it to the outside of Lando Norris. That becomes the inside down at Club and Vale. Lovely move from George Russell as we end lap 1 and begin lap 2. It's chop and change at the front, but Hamilton holds the lead from pole. Antonelli second now, Russell up to 3rd, Norris 4th, Verstappen 5th, Piastri's dropped down to 6th, Leclerc, the biggest loser, down to 7th.
Yeah, I just saw Max Verstappen, he recovered a place there, but that was only the first lap. I mean, it's frantic stuff, isn't it, with a sprint? That's what it's all about. There is no time to waste. The race is too short. You cannot afford to think tactically. It has to be attack, attack, attack. And Lewis looking quite comfortable at the moment, but George Russell now racing against Lando Norris, and they're still having a bit of a battle. That will cost some time and give a bit of a time for a space for Lewis and for Kimi to get ahead.
Already see lots of overtaking. Expecting to see lots of overtaking because of the energy management situation. If you boost past someone on one straight, you don't have the energy then on the next straight. We've just seen Lando Norris do exactly the same to George Russell through Copse. He's back in front now in 3rd place, but you've got Russell following him through Beckett. It may well happen again, swapping with Russell back ahead of Norris down hanger straight. Harry, let's see.
Let's see, I think we're going to have to keep a track of this back and forth throughout the next 15 laps or so. Hamilton leads by 1.2 seconds though from Kimi Antonelli, the top 2 just now pushing away from Lando Norris, who's trying to keep George Russell behind as we head towards Stowe through the right-hander. He passes the Lando stand, fluorescent yellow, supporting the reigning world champion. Norris to defend down the inside by the time we get to Vale, the left-hander of 16 through the right-hand kink of 17. It's a double right-hander out of Club that ends the lap. Norris continuing to defend from George Russell, who's now equally under pressure and behind Max Verstappen, who gets the move done before we get into Abbey, the right-hander at turn 1. Verstappen now up into 4th, make that 3rd as he cuts down the inside of Norris, but Norris swings back at him as we head through the loop now. Norris ahead once again of Verstappen, who tried his luck, more energy in the tank, but then Verstappen just having to lift off and top up his battery, heading down the Wellington Straight now. It's a 3-way fight for 3rd here at Silverstone for the sprint. Norris currently holds it, but he's got Verstappen chomping at the bit. Russell there too, as Piastri and Leclerc are bringing themselves into the fight as well.
That's an amazing recovery back from Max Verstappen, who lost a lot of places at the start, but he is fighting back. The question is, has he used up too much of his battery in certain parts of the race? He's attacked brilliantly, but breezed past. It was Lando, I think it was on the start and finish straight, but it was incredible. The yo-yo effect is there, definitely, but we'll have to see whether or not Max has managed to maintain something in his battery to keep his position. He's fought back aggressively, but Lando's still currently ahead of him.
Antonelli closing in on race leader Hamilton as George Russell now down in 6th, make that 5th as he's just overtaken or re-overtaken Oscar Piastri as we approach lap 3. Hamilton ahead of Antonelli, then Norris, Verstappen, Russell, Piastri, Leclerc and Gasly's up to 8th. They are your point scorers. Lawson and Lindblad the top 10. Colapinto's up to 11th. Hadjar with a bad start down to 12th ahead of Behrman. Hulkenberg and Ocon the top 15. Bortoletto is 16th. Sainz and Albon from the pit lanes up to 18th. Bottas, Stroll, Alonso and Perez, the 22 cars in the field. We did have a yellow flag out momentarily. Didn't quite see who it was for, but all drivers still running out there. In fact, I think it might have been Sergio Perez who came into the pits. Side-by-side action, though, on the track. This time, over 6th and 7th, it's Charles Leclerc versus Oscar Piastri going through the loop as we now head down the Wellington Straight. They've got George Russell just ahead of them as we head into the long left-hander at Brooklands, then feed back on yourself through the right-hander of Luffield, which kicks you out of the right-hand kink at Woodcote. And currently, Russell's 5th, Leclerc 6th, Piastri 7th.
Yeah, it does look like the Ferrari. It's very difficult to tell with the shortness of this race whether there is a formed book with regard to a long Grand Prix. But at the moment, Lewis out front seems comfortable and seems to be able to hold the gap to the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli. And we just saw Charles Leclerc actually move up a place. So that was, he's lost that place again. So
he certainly has, but it's now just starting to stabilise at the front, around about 0.8 of a second to a second, the gap between Hamilton, who leads this sprint race, and Kimi Antonelli in second. Lando Norris in third, a couple of seconds up the road from Max Verstappen. Russell, Leclerc, Piastri all still fighting it out over 5th, 6th and 7th. Lawson's now up to 8th, and in that final points paying position, having just overtaken Pierre Gasly the last lap around. Lindblad rounds out the top 10. Colapinto, Hadjar, the top 12. Behrman, Hulkenberg, Ocon, the top 15. Bortoletto, 16th. Then the 2 Williams. Sainz ahead of Albon. The Cadillac of Bottas. The 2 Aston Martin. Stroll ahead of Alonso and Perez, who pitted with possible damage. There was a yellow flag out. He's come into the pits and back out again, having stopped. A reminder, this is a sprint to the finish. No mandatory pit stops on for a sprint race in Formula 1.
As things settle down a little bit, Kimi Antonelli, you have to say, has closed the gap. He's got to nearly within a second of Lewis Hamilton. So the gap that Lewis had is now started to be diminished. And we'll probably get an attack from Kimi on Lewis fairly shortly.
Just saw a lovely move from Arvid Lindblad down the inside at Brooklands as well to take Pierre Gasly's 9th place away from him. So 1 point away, 1 place away from a point is the British rookie. Lando Norris is told to just keep an eye on Verstappen and when he might use boost. He didn't use it in the last laps, that boost mode allowing you literally a bit more power around a lap. And right now, Norris just keeping an eye on what Verstappen is doing behind him. Norris 3rd, Verstappen 4th.
Yeah, this is a circuit which is charging poor. Basically, they have to spend a lot of time charging up. You see the red lights flashing in the back of the car, which tells us that they're clipping or charging up their battery. And Max Verstappen, it was before the start of this weekend, he was saying that he went on the simulator and he was laughing because he spent so long charging up the battery. But that's the way things are with this new formula. Lewis at the moment still maintaining that gap, but the gaps come and go depending on how they deploy their battery, and it's actually weaving now down the Wellington Straight to break a toe from Kimi Antonelli.
This is the closest Antonelli has been in some time as we head through the left-hander of Brooklands. Less than 0.4 of a second splitting the Mercedes man who leads the championship, and Kimi Antonelli chasing Lewis Hamilton, who leads the sprint in the Ferrari, although he did just set the fastest lap around and now just extends that gap. So Antonelli perhaps deploying a little bit more in that first sector, but then as we get out of Brooklands and Luffield and head towards that fantastic section of corners, Hamilton extends. A very warm welcome to those joining us on 5 Live. This is lap 6 of 17 of the sprint race here at Silverstone, currently being led by Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari, but he is facing pressure from the 19-year-old who leads the Drivers' Championship coming into this round, Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. Lando Norris, the reigning world champion for McLaren, is 3rd, with Verstappen in 4th. George Russell sits in 5th. We've seen a lot of overtaking so far. Energy management absolutely crucial around this circuit. Damon Hill, the 1996 F1 world champ, is alongside me. And Damon, what have you made of the first 7 laps or so?
Well, it's been frantic, hasn't it? We having to try and understand where the deployment comes, because these cars, when they get within the second of the car in front, they're able to charge a little bit more. And so the way that they discharge their battery is strategic, and it's very difficult from the outside to tell when they're actually doing it. So the racing has been a little bit what they call yo-yoing, but we've just seen an attack there, dive down, Kimi Antonelli going down into Luffield, but he didn't actually get his nose ahead. It was just to show that he's attacking, and Lewis is now having to defend a little bit.
That is where, though, Antonelli does seem to be stronger in that first sector. He gets so close, and then out of Woodcock, coming into the fast right-hander of Copse. That's when Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari seems to be able to deploy a little bit more energy and start to at least stabilise that gap or extend it. But we'll see if Antonelli switches up his strategy on that front. The top two pulling away from Lando Norris, who sits third, about a second ahead of Max Verstappen. Russell fifth, Leclerc sixth, Piastri is seventh. Then comes Liam Lawson, the top eight. Only the top eight score points in a sprint. It's 8 for the race victory and 1 point for 8th place. Lindblad, the British rookie, is 9th. Pierre Gasly is 10th. Hadjar, Colapinto, Behrman, Hulkenberg, Bortoletto, the top 15. Then comes Ocon, Sainz, Albon and Bottas, with Stroll the top 20. Alonso in 21st, with Sergio Perez coming into the pits early doors with some sort of issue. He's back out on track in the Cadillac. And last of the runners is Antonelli now stalks Lewis Hamilton, who has to defend, heading down into the right-hander of Village. It swings back uphill towards Loop. Antonelli taking a much wider line. Hamilton tighter on the apex. The Scarlet Ferrari ahead right now of the Silver Arrow. But Antonelli, a great launch back onto the Wellington Straight. They're side by side. Hamilton will have the inside line, though, coming into Brooklands, a long looping left-hander. The Ferrari holds it. He runs slightly deep. Antonelli with a wider line as we loop back on ourselves through the right-hander of Luffield. Hamilton lives to fight another day.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, isn't it, for Lewis to hold on to this. He's under real pressure now from Kimi Antonelli. We've only done 8 laps. We've got another 10 laps to go, roughly, or 9 laps to go. So this is a bit of a dress rehearsal for tomorrow, the big race. They're getting some idea, at least, of pace, and it does look like Kimi and the Mercedes have got more pace. Although I just saw him squiggling coming out of the exit of Luffield there.
And Hamilton slow on the back straight, on the hanger straight, as he slows, and Antonelli breezes past. That is a huge lift-off from Hamilton. Is that an energy management issue? Is it energy management or just an issue? I think it's just energy management from Lewis Hamilton, who slows on the hanger straight. Antonelli just breezes past, and now out of the final corner as we tick over for lap 9. Change of leader here at Silverstone for the sprint. Antonelli ahead of Hamilton, Norris third, Verstappen now fourth, Russell chasing fifth.
Well, it's just quite clearly that Lewis had to use too much of his battery to defend, and eventually ran out of juice, and the cars do slow dramatically once they lose all that battery power. But the question now is whether or not he can hang on to Kimi, given that he has a little bit more of an advantage in ability to recharge his battery.
But is that... Obviously, we know there's energy management, but that hadn't happened the last few laps around.
I'm pretty sure Harry saved his energy. Remember, in overtake mode, within a second behind, you've got half a megajoule of extra energy. I'm pretty sure he saved his energy for an attack on that straight, so he would have the boost mode as well as the overtake mode. And Hamilton would have done it strategically. So Hamilton, he knew at that point, Hamilton didn't have the energy to respond with his own boost button.
So there we go, and Mercedes and Antonelli then getting the jump, using strategy with energy deployment, which has been such a huge change and a challenge for every Formula One team to get to grips with this year, coming into the biggest regulation overhaul in Formula One history, with the engines or power units now 50% internal combustion, 50% battery. That is going to change over the course of the next 2 years and increase in terms of internal combustion. Back onto the hanger straight, and again breezing through up into fourth this time. George Russell gets ahead of Max Verstappen. Verstappen lifting off as we come into the right-hander of Stowe. Now into the final complex of corners. A left-hander through Vale, then it dips round, double right-hander as you come out of Club. Russell ahead now of Verstappen. Leclerc still stalking them behind, and the other Ferrari is Oscar Piastri. It's just a little further adrift now in seventh, but George Russell hasn't got this move done and dusted yet as we peel through the left-hander of Farm. Downhill braking into the right-hander of Village, turn 3. Verstappen to the outside, Russell cuts him off, and this is bringing Charles Leclerc into the fight as we loop round the left-hander and shoot onto the Wellington Straight. Russell has the advantage out in front, but momentum and slipstream will be with Verstappen and Leclerc behind. A three-way fight over fourth.
Yeah, I saw Verstappen have a bit of a slide on the exit of the turn leading onto the Wellington Straight, so he lost a bit of momentum, and now he's a little bit under attack from Charles Leclerc. But it's all about energy deployment. We're watching the gaps, but they suddenly extend. It's more like a concertina, it's more like one of those things that you play when you squeeze them. What are they called? Squeeze boxes.
Yeah, what are they called?
They're called a concertina.
Concertina.
There you go. There they are. So this is what we're watching. Is we're seeing gaps extend on straights as well in a way that we're not used to at all. I mean, it's been the feature of this season.
It certainly has. Lap 10 of 17. Antonelli leads Hamilton by 0.7 of a second. Norris third, Russell fourth. Verstappen about to lose fifth as Charles Leclerc gives him a dose of his own medicine, and the Ferrari breezes past the Red Bull heading down the Hangar Straight. Verstappen, will he try and fight back into the final sequence of corners? No, he doesn't. Through the left, then the double right. Verstappen down to sixth as we come across the line for lap 11 of 17. Antonelli, Hamilton, Norris the top three. Russell, Leclerc, Verstappen the top six. Piastri and Lawson round out the point scorers. Hadjar's up to 9th, Lindblad in 10th. Then it's the two Alpines. Gasly ahead of Colapinto. Hulkenberg's 13th ahead of the British driver at Haas. Oliver Behrman, who's 14th. Gabriel Bortoleto rounds out the top 15 with Ocon, Sainz, Albon, Bottas and Alonso the top 20. Stroll's 21st with Perez in 22nd. Perez being given a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. Believe Fernando Alonso might well have been involved with that. We haven't seen what happened at the back of the pack, but they're all still out there running.
Yeah, I'm looking at the gap between Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton now, and he's stretched it out to 1.4, so he's broken that 1 second advantage that you get from being behind. But now the interesting thing is whether Charles Leclerc can catch George Russell, because you're watching two marks. Is it the Ferrari in Charles Leclerc's hand? Have they got the pace to compete against another Mercedes? Because certainly at the front, Kimi Antonelli has got the measure of Lewis.
That's the voice of the 1996 Formula 1 World Champion Damon Hill. Alongside myself, Harry Benjamin, you're listening to 5 Live F1. The Silverstone Sprint underway, currently being led by Kimi Antonelli, with Lewis Hamilton chasing a second adrift. Lando Norris and George Russell, the top four. We'll be back with Gigi and the team at Wimbledon soon at the conclusion of this sprint race, lap 12 of 17. And we're seeing really a proper display of Formula One's new engine management system being displayed across this sprint race, with drivers really having full advantage at one point and being able to deploy absolutely everything from the engine side and the electrical side, and then having to face the consequences of it and having to top that battery back up and losing positions as a result. That's leading to quite a lot of overtakes, and so really it won't be until the checkered flag flies that we get a proper idea of where the finishing order will be. However, out in front, Antonelli is extending in that Mercedes. Now the gap almost 2 seconds.
Yeah, but it's extraordinary because you look at it 1 minute, it's almost back down to a second, and then it goes up to 1.7, and they're getting a lot of communication from their engineers in the pits, who are telling them where to deploy, and they're probably changing where they deploy. They're experimenting with the ways that they can charge up their battery and deploy it to get the maximum lap time. But it's an incredibly tactical and complicated business now, using these very heavily battery orientated or emphasized power units.
Yeah, a 50-50 split. Okay, next closest battle still looks like it could suddenly brew all of a sudden. The 4th place battle currently occupied by George Russell, who started down in 5th. Charles Leclerc was really the biggest loser at the start, was in 4th, dropped all the way down to about 7th place, has now crawled his way back up into the top 5. Verstappen losing positions, having started 3rd, was challenging the leaders at one point, and now Red Bull with the powertrain at the back, built by them and assisted by Ford, who returned to the sport this year, partnering with Red Bull powertrains. Verstappen down in 6th. Oscar Piastri has had a bit of an anonymous race, down in 7th, not really in the fight with anybody right now. And Liam Lawson, the top 8, again, the Kiwi in Red Bull's sister team, Racing Bulls, looking like he might well extend his current form of points scores, doing a brilliant job so far in 8th, keeping Isaac Hadjar behind. Arvid Lindblad, a British rookie in the field, rounds out the top 10. That's where he started. Gasly's 11th ahead of Colapinto. Hulkenberg, Bortoleto are ahead of Oliver Behrman, the British driver in his 2nd season at Haas, who is 3 seconds ahead of his teammate Esteban Ocon. Sainz and Albon 17th and 18th. Albon, the London-born Thai, who started from the pit lane, managing to make his way back up to the back of his teammate fairly quickly with Bottas, Alonso, Stroll and Perez. The remainder of the 22-car field.
Yeah, and the directors are showing us on board from Charles Leclerc, because currently this is the race, the significant race between a Ferrari and a Mercedes, but it's Leclerc versus George Russell, and he is getting to within that 1 second and seems to be threatening. But up the front, you've got to say that Lewis is holding a gap of about 1.3 to Kimi Antonelli. So Kimi's not exactly disappearing into the distance, but it is all about energy deployment. It's again the gap now between Charles and George Russell is within the second.
Ferrari, who brought an engine upgrade last time out in Austria, which didn't really deliver as expected, perhaps limited by the altitude experienced in Austria at the Red Bull Ring a week ago. Now, are we seeing more of the true performance that they've been able to bring, certainly on Hamilton's side of the garage right now?
Yeah, that definitely is a factor. You know, being able to pump air into the power, into the internal combustion engine using the turbo. With the smaller turbo that Ferrari went for, the capacity for them to do that is a little bit less, and especially when it's very hot, which it was in Austria. You have to say that they were probably at a disadvantage. They're not experiencing here at Silverstone. They seem much more competitive here and on a level. I mean, it's very close. It's not. They haven't got extra pace. They haven't got a faster car than Mercedes, but it's not too far off.
Getting into the closing stages now of this sprint race. We've had a few already this season. This approaching Silverstone off the back of the last sprint in Canada, one before that in Miami, and China also hosting the sprint. The next one we'll go to will be in the Netherlands at the Dutch Grand Prix, before we then head to Singapore later on in the year for the conclusion of the 6 sprint races that we have this season. Never had a sprint at Singapore before, so that'll be quite an interesting one. And of course the sprint returning to Silverstone, having last been here back in 2021.
There's extra jeopardy when you have a sprint race on a street track, you know, because of course the thing about the sprint is that it takes place on the morning before they go into qualifying, before the main for the main race, and you do not want to damage your car and jeopardise being able to take part in that qualifying for the main Grand Prix itself.
This is interesting though, isn't it? Because what the sprint does right now is it really helps you optimise what your strategy could be for the longer distance in a Grand Prix that we'll cover on Sunday. 52 laps. We cast our minds back to lap 1 of the sprint. It was absolute chaos, chopping and changing. But those who were able to pull away at the start and get track position and deploy more energy in the first phase of the race, perhaps that is the beneficial strategy to go with, rather than conserving at the start and hoping to crawl your way through, because now we're starting to see the gaps kind of stay as they are.
Yeah, it's incredible to think this is 15 laps, so this will be about the time that they'll be thinking about a pit stop in the main Grand Prix. So they won't do that here in the sprint, but it's a question of whether or not we're getting entertainment from this race. We're watching a real race. They're not just going around in free practice, but they're revealing their hand. They're showing a little bit of what their pace could be for the Grand Prix as well. So what we don't want is to see the sprint and know what the race result is going to be on Sunday. That wouldn't be very exciting. So I'm sure that they'll be thinking about what they can do, and they'll be learning from the way they deploy the strategy of the battery and so forth, and all that. In the early parts of the race, it does seem incredibly critical, because huge amounts of places can be lost if you run out of juice in the wrong time. Yeah,
it certainly is. As now they're approaching some lapped cars. One of the Aston Martins just having to get out the way, and Lance Stroll going slowly as these gets caught in the pack. He's down in 21st, and only him and Perez so far have been lapped. We're on the penultimate lap of the Silverstone Sprint, round 9 of the 2026 season, coming to you from the home of Formula One.
Man, that was crazy.
Yeah, we saw
Moved
that.
on the braking so hard.
Yeah, we saw that.
That was Isaac Hadjar, who sounds like he was taken by surprise by the moves of Liam Lawson ahead of him, moving under braking, which you're not allowed to do. Lawson currently in a fight to hold on to 8th spot, which is the final points paying position, and we're about to get another look at it, Damon, and it was through the inside coming into Stowe, and Liam Lawson just inched while he was right at the apex of the corner, that could have been a huge shunt.
Yeah, where he came across, I wouldn't say it was aggressive, but he definitely last minute decided to close the door on Isaac Hadjar, and Isaac would have got a fright from that for sure, and he was right to make that exclamation. But there's also a battle going on there for keeping that seat at Red Bull, because the Red Bull teams, the Racing Bulls and the Red Bull themselves, are already, there's noises about which guy's going to stay at Racing Bulls, who they promote from their stable of drivers and so forth. So these poor guys are constantly under attack to keep their job, and when they're racing each other on the track as well, then you know it's all to play for.
Yeah, it certainly is. But we're now on the final lap, 17 of 17 to kickstart proceedings here on Sprint Saturday. We'll have Grand Prix qualifying later on, and Kimi Antonelli 2.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. It's another hot and sunny day here at Silverstone. Blue skies above us, and a clear path for Kimi Antonelli as he carves his way round the right-hander of Luffield, chasing a victory to kickstart proceedings. Kimi Antonelli, just 19 years of age, looking to get back on to the top step in Formula One, having last visited it in Monaco for the Grand Prix. It was 3rd place in the sprint in Canada. It was 6th place in the sprint in Miami. It was 5th place in the sprint in China. Just a few corners to go now for the Italian, 19 years of age. He dips down, then up over the crest, heading into the left-hander at turn 16, Vale, then through the right-hander of 17. One more corner to go of Club until he sees that checkered flag. And for Kimi Antonelli, it waits for him, and he is victorious on Saturday here at Silverstone. Antonelli wins the Silverstone Sprint. Lewis Hamilton comes home in 2nd, and Lando Norris finishes in 3rd. Russell behind in 4th, making it 3 Brits inside the top 4. Leclerc comes home in 5th. Verstappen is 6th. Piastri 7th. And a fight for the final point in 8th will go the way of Liam Lawson down at Racing Bulls, holding off Isaac Hadjar for 9th, and the British rookie Arvid Lindblad completes the top 10.
Yeah, so it wasn't quite the dramatic recovery that we were maybe.
Very impressive, mate. Very well done.
Let's go. Let's go.
In control all the way.
That's the thing, isn't it, Damien?
Yeah.
The more we're seeing of Kimi develop in this year, only his 2nd season at Formula One, it's control, it's confidence, it's cool.
Yeah.
He is displaying amazing characteristics on his way, possibly, to a first World Championship.
Yeah, and he doesn't look like a guy who's never done this before, does he? I mean, to fight for a world championship is a big deal, and he's able to. The Monaco performance was just incredible the weekend there. I was so impressed with that. He's done it again. He had to fight a car out on track, which he did cleanly and effectively, and he doesn't seem to make the mistakes that he did do the previous season.
He's put up. Yeah, well done. Good job. Hey guys, let's get it right for once, please.
Lando Norris there, finishing in 3rd. Not too happy there, perhaps with the strategy in that sprint race. It's a good recovery, having started in 6th.
I think he can be happy with that.
Yeah.
There's a bit of dissatisfaction at McLaren here. I know his radio.
Yeah. Now we'll focus on to the next one.
Kimi, well done. Does that fastest lap make you happy at the end?
Yeah, it makes me happier.
He's done an unnecessary fastest lap there, Harry.
It's certainly, and Toto Wolff, the team principal, having a bit of a laugh about it with Kimi Antonelli, his certainly young protege that he's brought up through into Formula One. But that will be it for the sprint race. We'll return for Grand Prix qualifying later on, but it's been a fantastic start for Mercedes and Kimi Antonelli. Here on 5 Live, we will send you back to Wimbledon with Gigi and the team. And for those on Sports Extra, we will continue on as Kimi Antonelli makes it back round into the pit lane, slows it all down, and with those 8 points, he extends his gap at the top of the championship from 40 to 43 points. Russell, finishing down in 4th as well. Leclerc rounding out the top 5 as they pull up in the Parc Fermé area, and Rosanna Tennant's got eyes on them.
I certainly have. Kimi Antonelli's face on the big screens with his name flashing up, and he's just pulled in to the top spot. Lewis Hamilton's just getting out of his Ferrari, the yellow helmet shining in the sunshine here at Silverstone, and there's Lando Norris as well, just walking over to the side of his car to get weighed by the FIA, and Kimi Antonelli yet to get out, but his chief mechanic's there waiting with a water bottle for him. And actually there are a lot of cheers from some of the fans who've been able to come down to the Parc Fermé area. They're waving lots of F1 sprint flags, cheering on the drivers. And there's Kimi Antonelli, a fist raised and shook towards the crowd. He's now waving with his right hand, a thumbs up, touches the top of the car, still with his helmet on, so I can't see his face. I'm sure there's a smile underneath there. What a performance from the young Italian. And he hops out of the Mercedes car and goes over to congratulate some of his team who've come down to support him. And now a hug for Lewis Hamilton as well, of course. Kimi Antonelli taking Lewis Hamilton's seat at Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton waves to the crowd up on the hill, just overlooking the last part of the circuit, and he's just gone to take his gloves off and get himself ready for the interviews that I'm sure will come. And just behind him, it's George Russell, still with his helmet on, walking out of the Parc Fermé area. Wasn't to be for him in this sprint race. Outshone by his teammate, his younger teammate, Kimi Antonelli. And Kimi's just getting himself ready as well. Lots of cheering from the fans. They're absolutely loving what they're seeing. What a moment. Kimi Antonelli goes out to congratulate some of the Mercedes team who've come down to cheer him on. Lando Norris now with his cap on, he's congratulating Kimi Antonelli. They have a hug, and Antonelli now celebrating with his chief mechanic, who's just come over to congratulate him as well. Finally the helmet off for Kimi Antonelli. He's pulled his balaclava off, taking his radio out, and he's been congratulated by head of the FIA now. So lots of congratulations going on. And I'm sure we'll hear from them very shortly, Harry, as well, to find out how that was for them. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. There was a lot of overtaking. There will, of course, be cries of that wasn't real racing. However, cars were overtaking one another, going back and forth. Then it stabilised. There was strategy involved. People altered their strategy. Enjoyable, Damon.
Yeah, I think it's racing, but not as we know it, you could say. You know, this is a fact of life now with these power units, with the 50-50 split between internal combustion and battery power. And I think it is really difficult for the teams to work with.
Well, let's hear from our sprint top 3 finishers. They're with David Coulthard.
Well, welcome to our Super Saturday, the sprint podium, and first of all, our 3rd place finisher. I suspect you're reasonably happy with that, because you were a bit out of position in quali, made a great start, and then, well, you get to take the 3rd place.
That was a very good race. I'm very, very happy. Good start, good first lap. Not the pace to go with these guys, but I had a good battle with George and a lot behind me, so pleasantly surprised with today. So no, good, but it's just a sprint, so we have to do it all over again tomorrow.
Yeah, and of course you've got qualifying later on as well. So generally the car was feeling more together, because you have had some difficulty through free practice and quali. We didn't see any mistakes there.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, no, there was a couple little things we can certainly do better for later and better into tomorrow. So no, it was a good race, good points. I gave it everything I could as George was catching me pretty quickly at the end. So no, it was a good race, and congrats to these two as well.
Did you say gorgeous, George?
No, I would never say
sorry,
that.
it's my hearing not so good. Okay, Lando, congratulations. If you stay here, please. I'm going to bring in our 2nd place finisher, Lewis. Congratulations. Please, we just bring you forward a little bit. Otherwise, we lose you into the screen there. Now, you gave the crowd what they wanted yesterday with that amazing pole position. The start went very well. You had to be decisive into turn 1, and it looked like you had control of the race, but Kimi just had too much pace towards the end.
Yeah, big thank you for everyone that's here. The crowd is amazing here, so... And also, this is like the most energy I've seen in the pit lane before, so...
Yeah, you have your super fans right here.
Yeah, tough race to keep the Mercedes behind. I did say that was potentially the case yesterday. And obviously, with it being so windy today, big headwind down the back straight, I mean, he came flying past. I mean, I was pushing as hard as I could. I gave it absolutely everything. But well done to Kimi. And yeah, we got work to do to try and close that gap so we can keep up.
Yeah, well, you've got some more knowledge now to take into qualifying later in the Grand Prix, of course. Just put us in the cockpit in terms of how you were using your energy to try and defend, first of all. And it looked like you used a lot of it early, and then in the end, you just couldn't defend on Hangar Straight.
Yeah, they're particularly quick up to turn 6. And so I had to sometimes use the boost there. But one of the biggest places is as you come out and turn, when you come around Stowe, turn 15, you get on the power and there's no power. And that's where he was catching me massively. Then getting into the overtake mode, and once he got the overtake mode, then I couldn't hold him back after that because he has extra deployment through the lap, and I couldn't break that that 1 second barrier then. So as soon as that was lost, I knew he was coming.
Yeah. Oh well, congratulations nonetheless. A very strong sprint for you. If you can stick around as well, because we have your awards after. And our race sprint winner, Kimi, congratulations. There's quite a contrast, 21 years difference in age. This is Lewis's 20th British Grand Prix, only your second, but we got to see you go toe-to-toe, and you fainted as if you were going to overtake down into Brooklands, and then you obviously got the overtake a couple of laps later, so you enjoyed that battle.
Yeah, it was a very fun first 10 laps with Lewis. We were both pushing very hard, and yeah, when I got into overtake, I knew my chance was coming. And then out of 4, that lap was very close. That I went alongside in Brooklands. He used the boost, and I decided to wait. And then, obviously, going into Stowe, I used everything I had, and then I was able to overtake. And from that point on, I just tried to get into my rhythm and you know, just try to break the overtake that he had, and then just try to bring it home.
Now, you've been racing since you were a small kid. But can you really believe the run of form that you're having right now, just win after win?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the momentum is there, and we're doing a great job together with the team. But of course, you know, we can't let our guard down, you know, lower, because Lewis and Ferrari are doing an incredible job, and Red Bull, McLaren, they're coming, and obviously also George is super quick. So we just need to keep raising that bar and, you know, keep delivering performances.
Well, congratulations on that. If you wouldn't mind going between Lewis and Lando, please, and form up as if you were on a podium. I'll take that microphone. And at this point, what we're going to do, we have our present right here with us, but we're going to bring out the future. We have our karting champions who are going to present the awards to our top 3. Congratulations to you all on receiving those awards. And if I could just ask everyone to face the cameras for a shot. Well, Lando's getting some advice here from one of our karting champions.
As the photos ensue for our top 3 finishers in the sprint, won by Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton in second, Lando Norris third. That is all the sprint action out of the way. 8 points back for Kimi Antonelli, and confidence ahead of Grand Prix qualifying, which will be later on today. The green light coming on at the pit lane at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and you can hear that over on 5 Sports Extra 3. Do join us for it. Thanks to Andrew, to Damon. We'll see you a little later on this afternoon back here at Silverstone. We'll thank Rosanna Tennant as well. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.